Intestate probate proceedings can be one of the most valuable primary source genealogical documents out there because the proceedings are governed strictly by law. Problem is, the laws may not make sense to you, and the actual text of the laws, those can be pretty hard to find. I'm Mike O'Neill, and I'm going to give you a case study of how the actual text of Virginia's intestate laws resolve the tough genealogical problem. My case study starts with my wife's ancestor, Julia Chu, the wife of Thomas Chu, who was born in 1801 and died in 1879. According to Julia's tombstone, she was born on the 2nd of March, 1804, and various records put her birthplace in the state of Virginia. The consensus of family trees online was that Julia's maiden name was Huggins. As always, I assume good intent when looking at secondary and tertiary sources, that is, other people's research. And I found a March 1835 probate proceeding in Highland County, Ohio, for a William Huggins who named 2 daughters, Julie Chu and Tirzah Hancher, as well as a son, Dr. Benjamin Franklin M. Huggins. Fun fact, Doctor wasn't a title, it was actually the poor guy's first name. Dr. Benjamin Franklin M. Huggins. God, what a mouthful. Anywho, the probate file noted that William owned land in Frederick County, Virginia. Now, Julia and Thomas spent most of their lives in Highland County, Ohio, and in Indiana, but they started their married lives in Virginia, where their first 3 children were born between 1826 and 1830. They were probably married in or around Frederick County, Virginia, where Julia's dad owned land, right? Right? So, there is a record of an 1823 marriage bond in Frederick County, Virginia for a Thomas Chu, but here's where the problem started. Thomas married a Julia Mincer, not Julia Huggins. Now the bondsman, a role typically held by a close family member such as a father or a brother, was William Huggins. So I felt like this had to be the right record. William Huggins had named Julia as his daughter in his will. So I looked for a record of a Julia Huggins marrying a man named Mincer, figuring maybe she was a widow, but I couldn't find one. Look, I could have walked away from this and say, you know what, I've got it. I know who the father is, I found it in the will. But you know, it felt weird, that marriage bond. When I hit a problem, a brick wall, I found that one of the best ways to just punch through is to examine the siblings. I discovered the name of Tirzah's deceased husband, Barton Hancher, in an extended wrangling over William Huggins' will. Barton Hancher was from Barkley County, adjacent to Frederick County in Virginia. And in Frederick County, I found an 1832 marriage bond for the marriage of one Barton Hancher to Tirzah Mincer, with Franklin Higgins as the bondsman. I mean, that's got to be Dr. Benjamin Franklin M. Huggins, right? And it's got to be the same Barton Hancher and Tirzah that showed up in Highland County, Ohio. So anyway, that's just really weird, right? William Huggins named both women as his daughters. But there's no way that both women had first married a man named Mincer before remarrying to, respectively, Thomas Chu and Barton Hancher. At this point, I was totally confused, so I started. Okay, no, really, I started looking around for Mincers in the Frederick area for any clues. A fellow named Brad Mincer had found a will abstract for Rebecca Minson, and that will abstract named Thomas Chin and his wife. Now, Brad attached this to his ancestor, Rebecca Hancher Mincer. The abstract also named George P. Chrisman and his wife. Interestingly, Tirzah, who was widowed in 1835, married a George P. Chrisman in 1837 in Highland County, Ohio. Then I looked back at William Huggins' will. It actually named a William Mincer in relation to some deaths. And lo and behold, Brad Mincer's tree listed William Mincer as a son of Rebecca Hancher Mincer. At this point, I know this has to be the same family, but I don't have a good explanation. I mean, William Huggins named Tirzah and Julia as his daughters in his will. But when they got married in Frederick County, their maiden name wasn't Huggins, it was Mincer. Why would they appear in the probate proceedings of a Rebecca Mincer and receive equal shares in her estate to all of Rebecca's kids? It just didn't make any sense. I couldn't find a connection between William Huggins and Rebecca Mincer. Another thing that I do when I'm blocked, I go back to my principles. And in this case, my principle is always read the original. The abstract that Brad Mincer had posted listed books 23 and 25 of the Frederick County Will Books as containing the full probate proceeding. I ordered microfilms of those books from the Family History Library and discovered that Rebecca hadn't named Julia Chu and Thurza Chrisman in her will. In fact, she had died intestate, and since both women received shares equal to Rebecca's other children, I mean, they had to have been her daughters, right? I also noticed a transcription error. It wasn't Thomas Chin in the original, it was Thomas Chu. Both women were born after Rebecca's husband, Jacob Mincer, had passed away, so he couldn't be the father. William Huggins claimed both women were his daughters, but he and Rebecca never married. So my new hypothesis? William and Rebecca cohabited without formalities, or to put it in the lingo of the 1800s, Julia and Thurza were bastards. The beauty of intestate proceedings is that they are strictly governed by law, so the law itself might be able to prove my hypothesis. The problem is getting my hands on the law. Well, I went to WorldCat and I found a 1857 guidebook for Virginia probate law for administrators and executors. And that book gave me a crystal clear answer. And let me quote, "Bastards also shall be capable of inheriting on the part of their mother, in like manner as if they had been lawfully begotten of such mother." In the 1820s and 1830s, bastards carried their mother's surname, even when the father was known. You put all this together, and that explains why Julia's and Thurza's maiden names were Mincer, not Huggins. Final point, Dr. Benjamin Franklin M. Huggins didn't receive a share of Rebecca Mincer's estate, and that means he had a different mother than Julia and Thurza. Not that I have had any luck figuring out who she was. I hope you enjoyed this 5-minute genealogy video. Please subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments.